What's up, football fans from the GoMileHigh.com studios? It's time for another edition of Football Guys TV. I'm your host, Cecil Lammey. Let's look at the waiver wire. I'm going to tell you who to add and who to drop. Well, go to the waiver wire and add one of these three, or hell, all of these three running backs to your fantasy roster. We're set to see some bigger roles from Ronnie Hillman. First up with the Denver Broncos. Listen, if you listen to my show, The Audible, you know this kid is the real deal. He is the truth. And the Broncos have been waiting to feature him. He gets up to speed in that offense, gets up to speed in pass protection. You don't want to get Peyton Manning killed back there as a running back. You look at Ronnie Hillman's talent. I've seen every single one of his carries from San Diego State till now, including mini camps and OTAs and training camp. Ronnie Hillman has LaShawn McCoy-like upside. He is a full-time back, not just a change of pace back. Now, initially, yes, he'll be behind Willis McGahee, but the role is there. The role is expanding for Ronnie Hillman. Make sure you add him to your roster right now. Next, we'll go on and move to Seattle to talk about Robert Turbin. Robert Turbin is the rookie runner from Utah State, very big, powerful, physical runner who gets better as the game goes on. A lot of scouts compared him to my son, Marshawn Lynch, when he came out of college. And guess what? Pete Carroll loves to grab the acoustic guitar, play Kumbaya, and run the ball down your throat. If something happens to Lynch, then Turbin will step in and be a solid RB2. And finally, let's talk about the law firm of Brandon and Bolden. I guess, well, he runs a lot like the former Patriots back, the law firm of Ben Jarvis, Green, Ellis. Of course, they're former Ole Miss backs as well. But you now see when the Patriots are going to hammer somebody, they're really going to hammer them with two fists. Stephen Ridley and Brandon Bolden. Feel comfortable adding them to your team and setting them in your starting lineup when you feel the Patriots are going to run away with the game. That's not the Mile High salute. That's you waving goodbye. See ya, Pollyanna. To Mark Ingram, Saints running back. Listen, a couple of weeks ago, this team was up against a horrible Kansas City Chiefs defense, and Ingram couldn't do shut your mouth. I love his talent. I think Mark Ingram could be an effective runner at this level. It's just not happening with the Saints. Feel free to move on and add one of the running backs I told you about earlier. Speaking of moving on, we'll talk about Tashard Choice up next. You got to let him go because both Fred Jackson and CJ Spiller are back for the Buffalo Bills. This makes Choice their third-string guy and means he'll never see any fantasy points for your squad. Make sure to move on. And speaking of moving on, Randy Moss came back. Randy Moss on the 49ers, very exciting, and he gets about one target per game. If you are one of the few fantasy owners that still are stubbornly holding on, he can do it. It's not going to happen, okay? It's not going to happen with Frisco. Jim Harbaugh loves to pound the rock. They barely throw if they don't have to. Alex Smith, not really a downfield thrower anyway. Yeah, Moss may be frustrated or whatever, but he can be frustrated on the waiver wire. Feel free to drop that guy. From the GoMileHigh.com studios, that's a wrap for this week's edition of Football Guys TV. Hey, I want to remind you to check out Footballguys.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter every morning right to your inbox. The latest news and notes from around the National Football League with comments and opinions from Footballguys.com. For my man, Rob Wagner, man in the box, get back in that box right over there. I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.